What's up, guys? Welcome to Mods by Max Garage. Your boy is officially sponsored by BlackVue. So in this video, I'm going to show you guys how to install one of their latest and greatest camera setups for the front and rear, and we're doing that on the RCF. There's two items that we're going to be installing today. The first one being the Ultra battery pack, so that whenever it's in parking mode, it doesn't drain our battery and it goes directly off the battery pack first for up to 30 days before it starts going off of your battery, which is amazing. The second thing that we're going to be installing is the DR970X 2-channel LTE Plus kit, which is a 4K camera, and it also lets you access it via SIM card with your phone from anywhere in the world. Alright guys, so don't get too scared with this install, even if you're afraid of wiring anything on a car or just doing basic installs by themselves. This isn't too hard. So there's two ways of installing this. You can hardwire it for those of us that like a cleaner look and that don't want to tap anything into the cigarette lighter, or you can make it super simple and just literally plug into your cigarette lighter and be done with it. After that, it's just a matter of running the wires through the crevices and making sure that everything's nice and hidden, which we'll get to that eventually. But for right now, I just wanted to show you guys that there's two ways of installing this kit, and they send you both harnesses so that you can do it both ways, as well as some common fuse tabs that you're going to use. We can't use this because we actually use a micro fuse tab on the RCFs in most Lexus models, but luckily I have plenty of those myself here. So this is the kind of tab that we're going to be using for ours. I don't know if you guys can tell, the pins are very short. They're about in line with the little plastic, so that's what we use. To just make sure you have the correct one for your car. I do want to note that if you had to, you could use the longer prong ones like this one. It's just gonna stick out a lot. I don't like that myself, but I'm not judging. If you're okay with that, by all means, do what you gotta do. Alright guys, the first thing that we're going to open up is the Ultra battery pack, which I've already actually opened. This is it right here. It's a little bit heavy. One of the things you want to do early on is figure out where you want to place this. Inside of the box you have the cigarette lighter charger that's going to connect in here, and if you look over here, make sure that this is off when you're working on it. But you're going to have your DC in, which is this, or in our case we're going to hardwire it. So we're going to need this guy right here, which has an accessory, and I think there's a full-time battery connection too, maybe. No, it looks like just accessory, and then we have ground. And then this is our camera input, which hooks up here where it says Dashcam, and this is going to get routed to the camera. And here are your fuse tabs with some spare fuses. It looks like they gave us a couple 20 amp and a 10 amp. Now let's look at the camera. This is our camera. So that's the DR970X 2-channel LTE. Here's the front camera right here, and this is super light, by the way. And here's the rear camera. Both are 4K. What I did already is I scanned this barcode and I got my app downloaded to my phone. Haven't gone past downloading it, so it's just downloaded. We'll create an account and all that good stuff later. There is your memory card included in here. Alright, and this USB, I'm not sure what it's for, so we'll read the instructions and find out what that's for. Alright, so I just wanted to look at the wiring. Really, that's what's important right now, because we got to get the install done. So here's your cigarette lighter charger, here's your hardwire kit, and here's your rear camera wire connection. So we're actually not going to need any of this, I believe, because we have the battery pack. So what's going to happen is we hardwire the battery pack, and then from the battery pack we feed power up to the camera in here where it says DC in, and then the rear camera gets fed with this wire. So it almost makes the wiring a little bit simpler with the battery pack in a way. The only reason I say that is because if you want to use parking mode with the hard wire, you have a battery, a full-time connection, an accessory, and a ground. So it's just a couple extra taps that you'd have to use with that, but we don't have to use that. So all right, now for a placement for this, I myself am going to use my glove box because my car doesn't have a lot of space. Now, one thing that you guys need to keep in mind is this is a perfect spot for mine. I want the connections facing this way, and then I've already gone ahead and taken off the little panel on the side here with the little tool that they gave me, and this has clear access to the side here. So I am choosing to make a little hole here to run my wiring through, but I have to leave enough slack to be able to pull this off, and the reason why is because my cabin filter sits right here, and I need to be able to move this out of the way so I can swap out that cabin filter without it being a royal pain in the ass. So that's that. Now for the placement of the camera, it is recommended to put it behind the mirror, not only for aesthetics so that you don't have to stare at the camera, but because it's higher and it gets a better field of view once it's hooked up. One of the nice things about this particular model is there's a wire guide right here that we can use. So we can take this off and route the wires where the original wiring in here is. Hopefully it all fits. And then we'll just run it up and around. We're gonna pop this pillar off loose and get around the airbag so it's not in the way. And then we'll run our first wire, which is our DC in to the battery pack, and then the other wire we have to run is from here. We have to run the power. We're gonna run it down and over, so down from here from that same hole, and then over underneath, and we'll work it in to the fuse tap. Or another thing you can do, all right, so my cigarette lighter is in here, and I could use the cigarette lighter to plug in here if I want, but I use that to charge my cell phone with the fast charger. So I kind of like to have that open. One of the things you can do if you have that problem is you can get a dual plug for the cigarette lighter, and you can just plug in there that way. So we may do that, and to do that you would just run the wires through this paneling here. It's pretty easy once we get there, but the biggest thing is to plan things out. So first on the list, now that we mapped everything out, is we're gonna place the camera there. And one of the things that I just learned with my car is I have window tint on the inside of my front windshield. So the placement of the camera has to be exactly where I want it, because if I for some reason have to take it off, it's ripping off the window tint. They use VHV tape, so that camera is not going anywhere. All right, so I have my app open right now, and I just connected both cameras, put the SD card in, and I'm in pairing mode right now. It's finding the camera, so I'm gonna click it and verify it's your camera. Place your hand on the left sensor right here.
Manual recording on.
Look at that. That's pretty good. I like it. I'm happy with it. Let's see what the rear. All right, so now that I got a good placement for the camera, where I'm happy with, I have the trim off, which is right here, and that's what we're gonna use to hide this cable, as well as the power cable. So I just plugged in the rear camera in here. So you want to start off from here because you don't want any slack here. If you have to remove this, you can just unplug it and then you slide this out. but we don't want a bunch of wires sticking out of here, so we're gonna try to make this look as clean as possible. And I do wish that there was a cover here that would hide these cables. That would be ideal. I would like to see the cables just come off the top and then be completely out of the way. But this isn't too bad. All right, so next thing on the list is to hide this over like so. And you can use the little clips that they sent that stick to the window. I'm not going to use those. I just want to tuck it in and have it completely disappear. The other thing that I'm going to do is I'm going to pop this off. And to do that, I'm going to get the help of this thing right here. And mine does have an airbag in here, so I need to be careful. But all I'm gonna do is route it up here inside. I'm gonna run behind the airbag, down the bottom here for the power wire, and for the secondary camera, it's just gonna follow this line all the way through, like so. Alright guys, now that I have everything routed up, right here I am using a wire to route everything behind the airbag so that we can come off on the side where it's not going to obstruct any safety mechanisms with it. So alright, now that we have both wires through and nice and tucked in up here, our DC in is going to go in this pillar down here, and that's where we have it. And then our camera, we're tucking in right alongside the seal, and this is where we left off right now. And I'm just going to continue it until I get to the back. My back seat is a little bit crowded, so I will update you guys when I get to that. But for now, what we're going to work on is we're actually going to go ahead and drill our access port here for the DC in and the power out for the battery. Alright guys, so I'm going to show you what I did with the excess wire because I don't want all of it in my glove box. So I ran one end down, and that's because I'm also going to be running the power cable down through there. And then the part that goes to the camera up top is right here. And there's a little area up here where you can just tuck all the wires nice and neat and out of the way. And so that's what I'm doing. And then now we're gonna run the power cable through that same hole that we made. All right, we got her. And so what I want is pretty much a comfortable amount of space on both of these. To be able to set this aside like this, right? And that amount I would say would be see, because I don't want a bunch of wires in here either. So if that was in here like this, that's not too bad. Alright. That's enough to troubleshoot without having to unplug it. So I like this amount right here. We're going to go with that. So I'm going to tie strap these so they're nice and dressed. And then I'm going to put Velcro in here that BlackVue included. Actually, I'm going to put it on this plastic first. And then I'll just place this on top, closest to this edge. And then this will keep it from sliding around when I'm driving. Alright guys, so I have a fish wire going from one side of the console to the other so I can run my power wire over to the fuse box, which is located down here. So let me show you guys real quick. This is the wire that I'm feeding over. So I'm just gonna tape that over here. And just so I don't lose it, I'm going to hook this back end a little bit like this. Twist the tape so it's easy to come off. And then this, if it slips, it'll yank it. So then we'll put a little bit of tape on that hook so that doesn't catch anywhere. And then once we're done feeding it, we're gonna put this this piece of trim back in, and it'll sit right behind there. But we got to make sure we don't block the airflow here, so we'll just kind of run around it. And all right, time to feed this guy in. All right, that wasn't too hard. Let's make sure we got plenty of slack. I'll leave a little bit of room there to kind of dress it up back there. Now that I have the rest over here, let's take our fishing wire off. Alright guys, so here's my fuse box. I have a ground right here on the side that I had used previously for something else. So here's my ground for the BlackVue setup, and then this is my fuse tap that I use. And this is an ignition accessory activated fuse. And for those of you that don't know between difference between ACC and BAT, BAT would be full-time battery power, which means if you put a test light on one of these, you'll have power all the time. So let me grab a test light and I'll show you guys what it does. All right, so this is a test light. It's a very inexpensive tool. You hook it up to a ground and then you touch your power source to see if there's power. So this is a good way to know if this is a good ground as well, because if the test light doesn't work, like this is a full-time power fuse right here. And if the ground was not good, it wouldn't light up. But because this is a solid ground, we can use it. And then what I did was I found a fuse that wasn't on, but that turned on with the accessory. Things of that manner could be like your cigarette lighter, for example, your wipers, your radio. Those are all things that only come on when the ignition's on. So you'll want to test them, find the one that you're comfortable tapping, and then go ahead and set up your camera to be running off of that power source. Alright guys, so I centered my rear camera. What I did was I turned on the car so that I could check the camera angle on my phone, and then I ran the wire upwards. This was pretty easy to tuck in right on this side. Sorry about the chime guys, I gotta get out and close the door. So there is going to be some slack, and you have a choice to make on where to tuck in the slack. I'm thinking I'm going to tuck it into this pillar, or maybe this one. I'm not sure yet. So I'm going to hop on this side and decide that right now. Alright guys, this is it. I have both ends of the cables. I ran it through all the seams here. I did check to make sure there was space in here to fold it and tuck it in. So that's what I'm going to do. Ultimately, I'm pretty happy with this. So here's what I'm talking about. I want to make this kind of flat, like that, and there is room to tuck this right over here. And I made sure to check for any clips down there, and then we're gonna push this in, and then make sure that this gasket is over our section over here. Oh, this is one that kind of escaped. There we go. Okay. Everything is nice and hidden. It's not interfering with the belt. We are good to go. Alright guys, last piece of the puzzle. We are going to put the Velcro in here and get these shavings out. And I'm going to put it long ways, kind of centered right in here. It's not all the way flat, but it's gonna be fine. As long as it doesn't slide around, it doesn't have to be like a permanent hold. And one here. And so what I did was I took off the top as well, because we're gonna line up our battery pack, and we're just gonna lightly place it on top. So I'm gonna back it all the way in and up against this, and now it's gonna go on the Velcro, and that's it. It is not going anywhere. And one of the nice things about our little handy dandy hole over here is that we can feed some of this excess wire in here temporarily, and it'll come out when we need it. And so it's out of the way. It's not ugly. Alright. Should be. Everything's nice and clean. There's no wires poking through anywhere. Our camera in the back is pretty close to center. So let's go test drive this thing and check out the footage.